Well, as the COP26 conference heads towards its possible climax this evening, there have been so many claims and counterclaims over how much or how little can realistically be achieved now or in the very near future. Many campaigners say the pledges, commitments and money raised are far from enough. Oh, we've heard about carbon trading, offsetting, methane, as well as that deal on deforestation. But some critics say the planet is in peril simply because there are too many of us. Well, let's break down now the facts and figures. Well, according to UN estimations, there are currently some 7.8 billion people on the planet right now, and we're using around 1.5 times the Earth's resources, and that includes waste material too. The picture doesn't look any better if we fast forward to the half-century point, of course, when many countries have set that crucial target of reaching net zero. The world's population is estimated to be around 9.8 billion people then, and will be using double the amount of the Earth's natural resources. Well, let's talk now to Richie Mercian. He's Director of Climate and Energy Programme at the Australia Institute, as well as being a former negotiator for Australia. Well, thanks for taking time to speak to us here on the programme. Well, is population control such an unpalatable subject, or has it been, even mentioned in the corridors there at the conference in Glasgow?
It hasn't received much of a mention. What's been unique about Glasgow is that for the first time we've actually heard attempts to target the main source of greenhouse gas emissions, which is fossil fuels. And even though fossil fuels are not mentioned in the Paris Agreement, which seems to be a major omission, here at Glasgow 6 years later, we actually are talking about how do you phase out coal, how do you stop opening up new gas and oil reserves, and that I think is real progress, especially for major fossil fuel producers who are interested in, unfortunately, only expanding fossil fuels rather than putting a cap on new growth, and that certainly applies to Australia.
Say then that, even talking about population control at this moment in time in history is really just an uncomfortable truth then? Why is it that not many people are willing to talk about it? Is it because of, religious concerns or civil rights concerns?
Those do factor in. One way that population does factor in is in per capita emissions. That's a way of seeing sort of in a more equitable fashion what is the budget allowed for every country based on every individual. Because if we give every individual the right to develop, to have clean electricity, to have clean water, to have all the clean resources that those in the developed world enjoy, then that's a different way of seeing it. So, for example, the per capita emissions for a country like Australia or for a country like Qatar or Saudi Arabia or the Emirates is very high because of the high fossil fuel usage, whereas the per capita emissions for India are far lower. Therefore, India should be given more time to reduce its emissions and countries like Australia less time. So it is factoring in different ways, but not in a direct fashion.
You've taken part in many other COP conferences. How does this one compare to the others in your own personal experience? This we've heard from the UN Secretary General saying now the world is on life support.
Yeah, never have we seen the urgency as clear-cut. Scientists earlier this year said it's unequivocal that climate change is happening, and the urgency is essential. We need to factor that in, and we need to do so in this coming decade, or what President Biden calls the decisive decade. So a lot of the effort put here in Glasgow is in what can we do to increase short-term action. We've seen great pledges, significant increases on efforts from some countries like the UK as the host, from the US, from EU members, from Canada, Japan, Korea, countries that haven't put forward pledges, significant pledges in the past, like India, now saying that they want to get to 50% of their energy, their electricity from clean energy, from renewables. That's all great science, but it still falls short of what we need to do. And so right now the text is being decided to call countries back and say, we want stronger pledges, we want them aligned with a safe climate, and we want you to bring them back next year. And hopefully that decision sees it through to the end of COP26.